Happy Monday morning to you all. We have a lot of updates, international as well as across the United States. We got drones shutting down a New York airport, but the White House still saying it's just our imagination. We have a big ham and pepperoni recall that you need to be aware of, and we have a big oil spill as 2 oil tankers sink, or almost sink, or something along those lines. We're not quite sure yet. Apparently, they don't quite know if they've sunk yet or not. We got 13 new countries joining Brics. We got more people fleeing from the communist utopia of Canada, and many other reports from our Watchman community about what's happening on our store shelves and also at local businesses. Let's jump into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade, and these are your updates that you guys are sending in from across the United States and around the world about what is going on out there. We keep you ahead of the curve. Amazing how many times somebody says, that's crazy talk. And 2 or 3 days later, it's now mainstream. We get you ahead of the news curve and try to keep you there, and definitely ahead of the food shortages so that you know what's going to be missing months before it's missing. Please do keep your updates coming in. Make sure you use the word update somewhere in your comment to get it to the right place. And before we go in, we do want to thank our sponsor, Genesis Gold Group, fantastic group of people who have helped so many watchmen in this community transfer some of their retirement or a lot of their retirement over into gold, silver, or platinum. You can do that inside your IRA. You don't have to do any taxable things. You can just move it over within your IRA. If you want to talk to someone about that, there'll be a link at the end of the video. All right, this is from Ultra MAGA Patriot, but it's not political. It is safety related. 2.3 million pounds of Purdue ham and pepperoni have been recalled due to listeria contamination. And their advice here is please take it back to the store and get your money back. Don't just throw it away. That's always good advice. Whenever something is recalled, make sure that you take it back to the store, get a refund. Don't just throw things away like that. You can, if it's recalled, you can get your money back, or you can exchange it for another product like that. So, but 2.3 million pounds, and that's Purdue ham and Purdue pepperoni. If you've bought any of that in the last couple weeks and you're unsure, make sure you do Google it and see if your products are covered in that recall. 2.3 million pounds is a lot. When we start talking about 100,000 pounds, that kind of thing, this is a lot bigger than what we've had recently. So this is a major recall. We have a major oil spill in the Black Sea. That's where Ukraine and Turkey and Russia is. In the Black Sea, major oil spill after 2 Russian oil tankers severely damaged in a storm. So they weren't, to the best of our knowledge, they weren't hit by anything war-related. It appears to be just the storm damage. One has now reportedly sunk. That seems to be, and yet there's so many conflicting stories out there. Some saying that both ships were damaged. Other reports are saying both ships have sunk. And then there's a report that one's up on a sandbar or something like that, and still rescue operations underway, so apparently they don't quite know yet what's happened. But it appeared like latest reports were that there were crew still on one of the ships, so that probably hasn't sunk. I think my best read of it is one has sunk and the other one has run aground. And that's what I'm gathering. But there is an oil spill, and once the storm has passed, we're going to see the extent of that oil spill. Related to that, Ukraine has successfully set a major Russian oil terminal on fire inside Russia. Now, this is the second time in a week that they have hit an export oil terminal. So this does indicate possibly that Ukraine is specifically targeting energy export terminals. This is something that they haven't really gone after recently. They haven't made a major emphasis of that, and with the natural gas pipelines going through Ukraine from Russia coming to a halt in just a few days from now, we're all kind of a little bit concerned that they're going to start going after, both sides are going to start going after energy infrastructure, particularly natural gas pipelines and oil pipelines and oil facilities. That will definitely impact prices of energy around the world. It will help the United States since we're exporting more oil than we're taking in right now. So we'll see. Update on Brics. I said this just the other day. I had come across an article and I did a cursory search, and I was only seeing just a couple countries getting inducted on January 1st. And I don't know how I missed it. So 13 countries are joining Brics on January 1st, okay? They were approved in October at the big Brics meeting in Russia. The countries that are joining are Algeria, Belarus, Bolivia, Cuba, Indonesia, I don't have that many fingers, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, Nigeria, Thailand, Turkey, Uganda, Uzbekistan, and Vietnam. So someone asked about Indonesia, and I was like, I didn't see that on the list, but I went and searched it again and went, whoa, somehow I got that one wrong. So a lot more countries joining the Brics. They're joining as not full members, but as partner countries. So they don't have like full voting rights or something like that, but they do have some rights and some participation. So it's, but definitely very influential. I mean, Indonesia is one of the larger countries population-wise out there, and a bunch of these other countries are not small countries. Malaysia, when you look at Vietnam, when you look at Thailand, Turkey, these are big countries, and others are very strategic. Turkey controls the Bosphorus Strait into the Black Sea. We get Algeria controlling or being close enough that it could control the Gibraltar Strait. You see a good number of these countries are very, very strategic. Indonesia controls I'm going to have to get all of my straits here straight. What's that one called? The Strait of Malacca. Strait of Malacca, that's Singapore and Malaysia and Indonesia, kind of squeezing that strait. That's not quite as vital, but all right. Word out there is, well, it's been publicized now. Jordan Peterson, you may have seen him on YouTube and such, the psychologist, has chosen to flee Canada. He is criticizing the criminalization of speech there, especially this bill that they're trying to ram through Parliament. It's Bill C-63, extremely controversial, which would allow charges to be brought based on fear of a hate crime. So a hate crime doesn't actually have to happen before people can complain and start legal proceedings against you, but they just have to fear that you're going to do a hate crime. You see how that's kind of a problem? So you don't have to do a hate crime. You just have to be the kind of person that might, or their perspective is that you might do a hate crime. Yikes. That's a little bit stifling. He also stated the tax situation is out of hand. The government of Canada at the federal level is incompetent beyond belief, and it's become uncomfortable for me in my neighborhood in Toronto. So he is moving south into the United States, and we're glad for him. We're glad for all freedom-minded people who actually make money and pay into the welfare state as opposed to just take out of the welfare state. Speaking of the welfare state, U.S. national debt is projected to hit $40 trillion by the end of 2025. So we got something to look forward to there. Now, of course, we got hopefully some things changing this year. That's the projections based on if things don't change or if things just kind of stay on the trajectory that they're on. But interest expenses are growing fast. So basically, it's projected in 2025 that unless something changes, 28% or 28 cents of every dollar that the IRS brings in, Any dollar that the U.S. federal government brings in, 28 cents is going to go to just paying the interest on our national debt. So if we cut everything with the entire government, we shut down everything. We don't give out any payments for Medicare. We don't give out any Social Security payments. We don't give anything out. We'd only get 72 cents on the dollar. Yeah. So we're in trouble. We're in trouble. It's going to be a hard thing to turn this thing around. All right. The federal officials and White House, very trustworthy people, have continued to repeat, and it's interesting how they all kind of repeat this phrase, that there is no evidence that the drones pose a threat to national security or public safety. I'm just going to give you this a freebie here. Anytime someone says there is no evidence or no evidence to suggest, whatever they're about to say is a lie. Whatever they say after that is a lie. Go ahead and search back through statements by this current White House and by politicians and prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Anytime someone says that, it's they're lying to your face. All right, so these drones apparently, according to the White House, pose no threat to national security or public safety, and there's not even any evidence to suggest that. Meanwhile, Stewart International Airport in New York had to shut down for over an hour after a drone was spotted inside its airspace. But according to the White House, it clearly didn't shut down because of safety or security concerns, because there is zero evidence of that. Just like there's zero evidence of the pokey giving you any side effects, right? And zero evidence that there's any downside to putting fabric over kids' faces. Yeah, funny how that is. Anyway, so not only that, but a commercial passenger airliner with people on board out of JFK Airport declared a mayday and immediately landed after it was struck by a bird that looks suspiciously like a drone getting sucked into the jet engine. And how can we see this? Well, somebody was taking a video outside, out the window of the airplane as this bird got sucked into the engine. And let's just say it's a very unusual looking bird. Weird white color too. But you can go look it up yourself. There's clips of that out there, and quick search will show that. Anyway, so still no evidence apparently of any kind of concerns. This is from Almost Oily. I have a family member who is a manager for NASA. They are in fear over there and having think tank meetings about losing their jobs. Not think tank meetings about doing their jobs, though. NASA is kind of like Boeing. Need I say any more? Because Elon has SpaceX, and they are afraid he's going to wipe the slate clean. I think he said you have to be at NASA 10 years to be vested in his department. I don't know if that's company-wide, and he's been there 8.5 years. Well, I hope he's great at what he does, and I hope he prospers in this reorganization as things go. I wish nothing but the best for anybody. But I hear that, and I don't know if anyone else is like that. But I hear stuff about like vested, and I hear about professors at universities getting tenure, and it's such a foreign concept. This like you can do anything you want and you can't get fired. We don't have that in the in the private sector, right? I mean, like, I've never been in a job where anybody was like protected from doing whatever they want to. I don't know. Am I off base on that one? Should people be protected with a tenure type kind of thing? Or do people need to keep performing at their jobs in order to keep their jobs? Like, can you, like, 75% of Twitter got laid off, and Twitter functions better now than it used to. What were those 75% of the people doing? They were literally having meetings about who they were going to block and ban and shadow ban on Twitter. It functions better without them doing all that stuff, doesn't it? Lucille says, absolutely no peanut butter. This is at a Walmart in Maine, which is crazy because there's usually quite a bit of peanut butter. Is anyone else seeing peanut butter shortages out there? Make sure you use the word update in your comment. All right, Julio says, Lower Michigan, Ovid Township. Massive solar farms being installed at this very moment. Word on the street, 2 family farms just nearby, which produce meat, don't know what kind, have rented their land, 2,000 acres, to someone offering $1 million per acre a year to install solar fields. Now that sounds a little, well, having worked as a tax accountant, right, in an area where there's oil and gas leases going on, there's usually large payments made for damages to the property. So they can give a lot of the payment to you in damages, and then you don't have to pay taxes on it. That's kind of common there. So and that's usually kind of upfront payments to get you to sign. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of that's, as they put the solar panels in, they pay damages to the, because you can't farm with it, which is kind of where they're going with this. Cornfields are now being transformed into a solar farm. Thousands of men, hundreds of 18-wheelers of all kinds, hundreds of backhoes, bulldozers, etc., millions in material all over. After the solar farm usage and removal, the soil is damaged so badly the soil can't be used for 25 years. Very disturbing to see. Well, I mean, that's the thing. We get told that, solar panels are so clean and they don't have any downsides whatsoever. But, I mean, anyone who has, been around the sun a couple times, you've realized that everything has downsides. There's no such thing as a free lunch. If it was so great, then everyone would be doing it, and not everybody's doing it. Why? Because there's downsides, right? Sherry says, do you remember when a congressional committee brought out a report on finding Chinese backdoors on large transformers? That's kind of what I was alluding to. That was May 2020. Trump issued an executive order, 13,920, which right there is a problem that we've issued almost 14, well, we've now issued over 14,000 executive orders, which executive orders were created for emergency use only. And so naturally our federal government has now issued over 14,000 of them, which is just ridiculous. I wouldn't be surprised if we're closing on 15 now. So that was due to the Chinese building back doors into transformers. Not only that, but Chinese have built back doors into port cranes. This was something that I was particularly interested in as I was over in Taiwan, which I managed to lose all the footage for that, which is still burns my britches. I shot some very dramatic footage over in Taiwan of Chinese ships, or ships directly coming from China, coming straight across the Strait of Taiwan and pulling right up into Taiwanese ports without any customs inspection offshore. They were not being stopped by a Taiwanese Coast Guard vessel, searched to make sure, say there aren't 20,000 Chinese soldiers on board, which these massive shipping container ships could easily have 100,000 soldiers on board. If they pulled off all the containers and put containers that were housing for the soldiers, they could put 100,000 soldiers on these ships. They're massive. They're massive. So these ships are coming directly from China, and they're pulling right up into port. Well, you say, at port they get inspected, or they inspect anything that comes off the ships. Well, sort of. They pull the cargo containers off, and they just kind of put them down, and then before they open them up, they inspect them or whatever, I assume. But Well, it would certainly be very useful to have control where you can remotely take control of the cranes. And that's what it appeared they built into the port cranes. And most port cranes across the world are built by several Chinese manufacturing companies. Yes, so if you go into any port out there, most likely those port cranes that you see were built, the robotics, the control systems, everything were built in China. Just like so many other things. That's a kind of a big vulnerability. Ports are kind of important things. So port vulnerabilities, Chinese phones, TikTok. TikTok is going to get banned on January 15th if they don't sell controlling interest to somebody else. That's because every time somebody goes on TikTok, everything that they're doing gets logged on computers in China. The Chinese computers, controlled by the Chinese military, are logging all of the private details, all the videos and how long you watch the videos and whether you like this and who you have connections with on TikTok. All of that's being logged in China. Now, I think that they're kind of unfairly going after TikTok on this, and that's mostly because YouTube doesn't like the competition, even though I'm on YouTube and not TikTok. But there are other companies out there and apps and everything like that that are doing the exact same thing, taking all your information and putting it on Chinese military servers, where they're not using it for nefarious purposes at all, I'm sure. This is from Carrie. I own a cottage bakery here in central Illinois. I have had a wonderful season at the farmer's market, but noticed in November, even with baking Thanksgiving pie orders, I had 30% less sales in November as opposed to the prior November. Melissa says Namibia, South Africa, has been dealing with its worst drought in a century. Professional hunters are needed to cull 300 zebras, 100 blue wildebeests, 100 elands, and 83 elephants, 60 buffaloes, and I'm assuming water buffaloes, 20 impalas, and 30 hippos. So serious issues over there in southern Africa continent, right? Scuba diver says, boss says she can't find broccoli in Michigan. Stop calling your wife boss. I'm sure she doesn't appreciate it. Even though she knows it's true. Anyway, PDS says our wall oven and microwave combo stopped working in October. We ordered another unit, delivered and installed. They have delivered 2 units so far, both of which had factory damage and had to be returned. The company told us that they didn't have any other units to deliver and did not have a clue when they would make any more. That's kind of problematic, isn't it? They directed me to another of their brands, which was in stock. Of course, this unit is a lot more money. They indicated that they would tentatively deliver and install it maybe in January. This is supposedly for an in-stock unit. Can't do it until January. And when in January? You know, you get one of those install windows, right? And, it's a couple hours long. Well, here, the install window is like a whole month, which is kind of not very specific. So bottom line, it's not just parts that are in shortage. This is from E. 1 week since last update, still no distilled water in central Pennsylvania. Spring and filtered water has more space on the shelves now. Watchman, thank you. I listen every day and make adjustments to our purchases based on what I hear. Thank you. And once again, distilled water is very important for some people. If people who have CPAPs, some other people need distilled water for certain things. And you can't just use other water. You need water that's pure, that doesn't have any contaminants or any kind of minerals or anything like that in there. So that's important for some folks. Nikki says, Loomis, California, no eggs at Rowley's. Milk was also half stocked. Thank you guys for your updates. If you want to get some more information from Genesis Gold on what you can do with your retirement account, there's a link right there. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up there. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report, out.